What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Walker here again from the man cave, making another video, this time chatting about my most anticipated houses and scare zones of Halloween Horror Nights 30 at Universal Orlando. So the event's running from this Friday, September 3rd to October 31st. Runs pretty much every Wednesday through Sunday, with a couple Tuesdays and other random days thrown in here as we get closer to Halloween. But this is something, if you know both me and my fiance, this is something that we look forward to every year. We put a whole lot of planning into this trip, and it's really something that we get really jacked up about. No pun intended there. So we've been coming to Horror Nights for about 6 years now. 2015 was my first year, and I believe 2017 was Olivia's first year. So we're not the most learned veterans, but we do have a good wealth of knowledge. I myself have done quite a bit of research on the past icons and things like that. So I feel like I do know quite a bit of the lore, even though I've only been coming for the past 5-6 years. I guess 5 years officially because of last year's rendition of Horror Nights, what we referred to as Horror Nights 29.5. They did the best they can last year. Fortunately, we were able to get 2 houses plus a third house, Beetlejuice, which opened up the very last weekend of Horror Nights, or I'm sorry, of their pared down event from last year. We were lucky enough to get 2 virtual queues for Beetlejuice last year, in addition to going through the other 2 houses, Bride of Frankenstein and Tooth Fairy. So we have a little bit of intel on how the event's going to go this year, but we are ridiculously excited about the 7 houses that we haven't seen. And of course the 5 scare zones, all the food items, all the cool merch, and all that good stuff coming back. Starting with a bit of a disclaimer before I get into the rankings. The 3 houses that I did go into last year, spoiler alert, are actually going to be at the bottom of my most anticipated list. And that's just because, like I said, I've already been through the houses, so I'm really anxious to see something new. I am really excited to give these houses another try and to see if they've made some tweaks and some changes. And it's not to say that these are bad houses at all. Particularly Beetlejuice, I'm excited about getting in again, because Brides and Tooth Fairy, we made about 5 or 6 runs through those, so I feel like I got a pretty good taste for those houses. Well, like I said, we were only able to do the Beetlejuice house twice, so I'm excited to get back through there again and see what that one's all about. So coming in at number 10 on my list will be the Revenge of the Tooth Fairy house. So a little backstory on the Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. You're about to discover the sinister reality behind a seemingly innocent childhood tradition. All children must give up their baby teeth to the goblin-esque tooth fairies or pay a gruesome price. It's an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's a pretty creepy little backstory there. And like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad house or anything like that. I really did enjoy it last year. I think they did a great job with the storybook kind of fairy tale feel that they had going on there. They really captured that really well. And the creepy costumes and mask designs were on point. They did a great job of incorporating the scare actors' masks, like their physical masks, into their whole overall mask design. So that was really cool to see last year. And it was really enjoyable. I would say it was probably not as scary as some of the other houses that I've experienced at Horror Nights. So that's probably why it's my, kind of at the bottom of my most anticipated list. But it did have a real creepy feel in there. It kind of reminded me of the Scary Tales house from years past. Kind of that, folklore, creepy kid thing going on. So it was really eerie, and it did have a good storyline that was easy to follow through with. But again, just excited for seeing some fresh material for this year. So that's why it's at number 10 for me. All right, so number 9 on my list is the Universal Monsters Bride of Frankenstein house. This time, the Bride of Frankenstein is stepping out of the shadows and taking her fate into her own bloody hands. The mate will have her monster, and the monster his mate. Nice and creepy, just how we like it. Another walkthrough that I was able to do last year, a couple times actually. I think we did this one maybe 6 or 7 times. And of the 2 that were originally open last year, this one was by far superior. It truly was a good sequel to the 2019 version of the Universal Monsters house, which I particularly enjoyed. I think that was actually one of my favorite houses of 2019. But Bride of Frankenstein was great. I did enjoy it. Again, maybe not as scary as some of the other houses that I've experienced. The set design in the house is brilliant. The facade is great, and it really is an entertaining walkthrough. I am very excited to go through these houses again, but like I've said, just for this particular ranking, I am very excited for some new houses. All right, coming in at number 8 on my list, Please do not rake me over the coals for this one. I have Beetlejuice in my number 8 position. Say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times. It's time to turn up the juice and see what shakes loose as the original film comes to life, more twisted and terrifying than ever. Beetlejuice will haunt, taunt, and send you screaming out of the haunted house. All right, yeah, that captures it perfectly. Like I said, we were able to do this house twice last year, and it was a really awesome treat. It was very unexpected. We did actually happen to be there for Halloween weekend last year, so it lined up perfectly with the opening of the house. Very random, very lucky, but like I said, we were able to walk through twice, and it was incredible. It really was a great house. Some of the sets were unlike anything I'd really seen before. It really did capture, you know, kind of the lighthearted nature of the film, you know, kind of blending some of the macabre, creepy elements with the comedic aspect of it. It was really cool in some of the scenes in there. I won't, you know, give away too many spoilers, but this is the one I'm most excited to, you know, get back through and give it another shot. Because like I said, I only had to go through twice, which was great, and I'm definitely not complaining. Twice was, you know, 2 more times than a lot of people last year, but I am very grateful that they brought this house back for more people to experience, because it truly is one of the best that I have been through at Horror Nights this far. All right, number 7 on the list, I have Case Files Unearthed Legendary Truth. Step into the shoes of Boris Schuster, a hard-boiled private eye investigating the supernatural. Follow his search for clues into the darkness of a shadowy film noir world populated by ghouls, poltergeists, and all manner of monstrous terrors. So I gotta say, that sounds pretty cool. I'm really excited to see what they do with this house. This is a house that I don't really know a whole lot about the backstory. I know there's been a Legendary Truth house in the past. I do know the house has a tie-in to one of the window areas in the New York section of the Universal Studios park, so that's kind of cool too. They've kind of weaved the intricate backstory, but this one is probably a little bit lower just because I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, but just the murder mystery aspect of it sounds really cool. I'm interested to see how they incorporate some scares into that kind of storyline. It sounds more of like a kind of thriller mystery sort of deal rather than a haunted house, but it could be interesting. It sounds very creative. Unfortunately, it is in that Shrek spot, which the houses tend to be a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, so we'll see how it goes there. All right, so number 6 on my most anticipated list is going to be Puppet Theater Captive Audience. This was a house that was actually announced at the end of last year's Horror Nights, and for some reason they removed it from their website, but they did eventually announce it back when they released all the originals a couple weeks back. But this one looks like a good one. I know they were kind of hyping it up last year. I think puppets are ridiculously creepy. If anyone's seen the movie Dead Silence, it's one of my all-time favorites. I think it came out, you know, late 2000s, maybe 2008 or so, but this is kind of along the same lines. Like I said, I think puppets could be terrifying, so I hope they, you know, do them justice in this house. I've heard some good things so far. I have seen the facade for this one. It does look incredible. Yeah, so a little bit about the Puppet Theater house. Open scene, a creepy abandoned old theater from the early 1900s San Francisco. A puppeteer and a ballet troupe have been trapped there ever since, and they'd kill for an audience. Whether you're a puppet or a patron, that's your cue to scream. So, I don't know, it sounds pretty awesome, and it sounds very similar to the storyline of Dead Silence, so I don't know. I'm very excited about this one, and like I said, I hope it lives up to the expectations. Number 5, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You've seen the 1974 horror classic. Now it's your turn to experience it for yourself. Enter the dilapidated Sawyer house and meet Leatherface and his demented family of merciless butchers. Will you make it out in one piece or in pieces? All right, let's do it. This is another brilliant house. Obviously a movie I'm a huge fan of. I do need to get a rewatch of the 74 version because I kind of grew up on the early 2000s version with Jessica Biel and that cast, which I thought was a great movie as well, but nothing beats the original. So I'm really stoked to see this one. I did experience the Texas Chainsaw House in 26, I believe, and I don't really remember a whole lot from it. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed by that experience, so hopefully this one can top it. It's got everything going for it, really. Leatherface is one of the creepiest, you know, icons of horror. Chainsaws already put people on edge, so I don't think they have to do a whole lot to make this one, you know, absolutely terrifying, but it is cool to see some of the sets in there from, you know, the old creepy family's house and stuff like that. So again, another one I'm ridiculously excited for, but tempering my expectations just a little bit. I don't want to overhype any of these things too much, so we'll see. All right, just 4 left, and coming in at number 4 for me is Halloween Horror Nights Icons Captured. Over the last 30 years, Halloween Horror Nights has introduced a murderer's row of original characters. Now they've joined forces, some newly risen to true icon status, to form a monstrous hell of fame, taunting and terrifying you at every turn. All right, so that sounds really cool, and honestly, just reading that little synopsis there kind of got me even more hyped for it. I know this is at the top of the list for a lot of people, you know, being the 30-year anniversary house. I do really love all the icons. I really appreciate how they've, you know, woven all the stories of them together and brought them back in various capacities over, you know, different anniversary years. But I don't have the biggest affinity to these icons just because, like I said, I haven't been coming but for 5-6 years now. So some of the original icons like Jack and things like that, again, they are very cool, but they don't resonate with me as much. So it is one I am very excited for, but as you can see, it's obviously not at the top of my list. I think it's gonna be an awesome house, and I know they're gonna put everything into it, so it is gonna be really cool, and I'm hoping it does move up my list once everything is all said and done. But yeah, this one's gonna be great. I know it's gonna be one of the more popular ones, so I'm excited to see if it lives up to the hype. All right, so my number 3 top anticipated Horror Nights house is The Haunting of Hill House. It stands like a brooding creature waiting for its victims. Enter the decaying remains of an aging mansion that lives, even if all who dwell there are long dead. Step right into Netflix's supernatural masterpiece, The Haunting of Hill House. So this was an awesome series on Netflix. Olivia and I binged it pretty quickly. We probably do need to watch it one more time before we head down there, but we did see it kind of recently, so it is pretty fresh in my mind. I'm very excited about this one. I think the set design is going to be awesome. I have seen the spoilers for the facade. I know we're gonna see some real creepy characters in here. The stilt guy, the bent neck lady. Oh man, this one's gonna be so awesome. And I know their makeup design, costume design is gonna be absolutely incredible. So this one is very, very much anticipated for me and Olivia. Since the series itself was more of like a psychological type horror, it wasn't, you know, a whole lot of those startling jump scares. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of capture that ambiance in this house. Halloween Horror Nights team always does a great job with that, so I know they're gonna, you know, knock it out of the park with this one, but it'll be cool to see. I know there's some awesome sets from the TV show itself, so I'm really excited to see how they recreate some of these things in this house. I know this is a house that's at the top of a lot of people's lists as well, but I'm just a sucker for the originals, so even though this is probably the strongest IP they do have at the event, I've always felt like the original house is truly where Horror Nights shines. This one's gonna be great too. And it's top 3, so, you know, it's right up there. All right, my number 2 most anticipated house is Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland. So quick backstory, the town placed a sign at the entrance to Cary, Ohio saying it's a nice place to live. Unfortunately, nobody lives here for long. No one escapes from Cary, where bad things just happen, and new terrors rain down year after year. Just hearing this synopsis gets me incredibly stoked. What can I say? Everything about this house just pretty much checks all the boxes for me. Original, based around a very, you know, sinister backstory. Everyone knows that Cary, Ohio has been used in various instances throughout Horror Nights, so I think they're gonna do an awesome job with this one. Just the whole feel of it sounds way cool. And like I said, I feel like Horror Nights really thrives with their original houses, so I'm really interested to see where they take this one. The facade by itself looks tremendous, so I am a little bit worried that this tent location hasn't produced the best houses in recent years. There's been some pretty decent incarnations of Blumhouse there, but like I said, a lot of creativity here. I'm really excited to see where they take this, what they can do with some set designs, what kind of, you know, monsters and things like that they'll have in there. Really, the world is their oyster for this one, so I'm sure they love, you know, just being in sandbox mode and being able to do what they want. I'm sure they're gonna take it to some very creepy places here with this one. All right, we're finally here. My most anticipated house of Halloween Horror Nights 30 is Wicked Growth, the Realm of the Pumpkin. An evil rot has taken root in the land. It's time once again for the rise of the Pumpkin Lord, who grows Halloween like a malignant vine. His minions are scouring the countryside, collecting unwilling sacrifices in order to summon the Pumpkin Lord. All right, so this one just screams Halloween. I love the pumpkin, kind of Pumpkin King aesthetic. I have seen the facade for this one as well. It does look incredible. I know they're just gonna knock this one out of the park. It does seem kind of like a mix of Scarecrow and Seeds of Extinction, two of which I absolutely love from their respective years. So Seeds of Extinction kind of went under the radar a little bit in Horror Nights 28, I believe. It was actually one of my favorites from that year, so I'm really excited to see how it kind of blends with this house, if there are any similarities there. And again, I still get that creepy kind of scarecrow vibe as well. So I think Wicked Growth is going to be one of the scarier houses there. And again, I'm such a sucker for the originals. I know the creative team really loves getting their hands on content like this, and I'm just absolutely excited to see where they're going to take it. So the backstory already has me hyped, and like I said, this is going to be my most anticipated house of this year. All right, jumping over to the scare zones now. I'm going to start again with my least anticipated, and coming in at number 5 is Crypt TV. So I do know a decent amount about Crypt TV. I have watched the shorts on YouTube that, you know, a lot of the Scare Zone content is coming from. They do have a good playlist that I'll link actually in the description of this video, so everyone can take a look for themselves and get kind of the backstory on the whole Scare Zone. But I don't know, it's just not something that really sticks out to me. I have seen some of the sets that they've put down and things like that. It does look interesting. This area for Scare Zones is a little bit tough as well. It's really congested here, and there's really only been a couple in the past that have really, you know, stood out to me. I love the Rob Zombie Scare Zone from maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a lot of time just hanging out there on a bench and you know, watching people get terrified. But this one, for whatever reason, doesn't resonate as closely with me. So we'll see. I'm hoping it you know, pleasantly surprises me. But as for right now, it is probably at the bottom of my most anticipated. All right, so coming up at number 4 for me is 30 Years, 30 Fears. Now I think this will be a great zone. Don't get me wrong. It'd be mostly for a photo op, I believe. I don't know, we'll see. I know they have some, you know, kind of higher up stages here already in place, so I think they're gonna try and keep people out of the street as it's already a congested area to begin with. But I don't know, it'd be really cool to see icons from years past. I think some of the decorations that they already have up look really cool. This one's always more or less just kind of a quick walkthrough. It's not necessarily scary or anything like that, but I think it'll be a great way to, you know, kind of set the tone for the event, and like I said, see some of the icons from years past. That would be really cool. Coming in at 3 for me for most anticipated Scare Zones is Lights Camera Haction, Eddie's Revenge. So this one looks really cool. I'm really a big fan of this Scare Zone location. I know, you know, in years past, some of these Scare Zones haven't been the most critically acclaimed, other than Vamp 55, which was my absolute favorite. I don't think any Scare Zone has quite lived up to the feel of that one, but they are actually bringing that one back here. I know they're, you know, kind of bringing back, you know, maybe 4 or 5 different Scare Zones for this one. They have little scenes built up for them. I've noticed Invasion, you know, like I said, Vamp 55, Treeks and Foon, some of the other ones from years past. So it'll be cool to be, you know, kind of reintroduced to some of these that we've already seen, but I'm hoping it's not too disjointed and, you know, it's got a good feel to it. It is, you know, a big area over there in the Hollywood section, so they have quite a bit of room to work with, but we'll see. I'm kind of tempering my expectations for this one. I really want it to be good, but for some reason it just seems kind of all over the place to me, so jury's still out on this one. All right, so coming in at number 2, I have Seek and Destroy. This one looks very intriguing. Again, the New York section it lends itself perfectly for a Scare Zone. They've had some good ones in the past. Zombieland was so much fun. I really loved that one. They really love doing the Purge in this location as well. I think those are all pretty good. But this one, it seems intriguing. I think it's got a cool little backstory to it. Some of the props and sets that I've seen thus far have been very intricate and pretty cool looking. I know they'll have, you know, kind of a stage show going on, you know, across from the tribute store there where they have the stage already set up. So that'll be interesting. There's always just a good energy in the Scare Zone for whatever reason. The kind of city feel, like I said, really lends itself to that. The fog is always pumping in here, so I know this one's gonna be really cool. All right, finally, my most anticipated Scare Zone for this year is Gorewood Forest. And actually, I don't know really a whole lot about the Terror Queen and the Terror Princess backstory. I've just seen some of the props and the sets for this one already, and it looks absolutely amazing. I think this location for a Scare Zone is one of the best to begin with. I know in years past they typically do the hanging pumpkins from the trees, which is really one of the staples of Horror Nights. They've kind of mixed it up in years past and gotten away from that, but I think they'll do something similar here. They'll have some cool lighting effects, but like I said, some of the things they already have in place look really neat, and it'll be really exciting to see this one. This is another good Scare Zone that lends itself to, you know, this dark and creepy atmosphere. They always have the fog pumping in here. It's just a good area for a Scare Zone. I mean, just a walk through Central Park at night is kind of creepy in itself, so this one really just sets it up perfectly. These are all just my, you know, kind of most anticipated. We'll see how it goes once the events get started here and, you know, the reviews start coming in. I will touch on the shows real quick. I think the The fountain show 2 years ago was one of the coolest shows I've ever seen. So that is by far my most anticipated. The Jack show I'm sure is gonna be great as well. I know Universal Creative will do something really cool with that. Just interested to see, you know, a second show come back to replace the Academy of Villains, which I did really love. Unfortunately, they had, you know, a terrible backstory there that I won't get into. But yeah, overall, just tremendously excited for this event. I know they're, you know, after a year and a half now of sitting on some of these houses and some of these ideas they've had for Halloween Horror Nights 30, they're gonna go all out this year, and it's gonna be absolutely incredible. So that's it. Feel free to drop me a comment if you agree or disagree with any of my rankings. If you like this video, feel free to hit me up with a like below, or hit the subscribe button to follow along if you're new here. I'm gonna have plenty of other content coming out, you know, vlogs, recaps of the events and of our trip down to Orlando, so be sure to stay tuned for those. Other than that, we'll see you next time.